Hey everybody, Dave Bazanko here. What I thought I would do today is go through three things that I wish that I could go back in time and tell my 30-year-old self about how to be more resilient as I went through my life and my career and my relationships with my friends. And it boils down, I think, to three things. I'm going to start off by sort of giving you a little bit of a backstory. I got married when I was 23 years old to my high school sweetheart. And Robin and I have been married for 34 years. And I'm going to tell you right now, that put a lot of pressure on both of our kids who saw their parents and their grandparents all go to school together and get married. And definitely not the norm for what is today in the online dating world. We didn't meet our potential future spouses through an app. We met them through good old fashioned, I went to school with you. We knew each other for a long time. And eventually we started to date. And that led to one thing that led to another to, at this point, we've been successfully, resiliently married for 34 years. But if I could go back and talk to that 30-year-old, that guy who had been married for 7 years, now, two very young kids at home, trying to struggle through a career, trying to start a business, there were many challenges that I faced along the way. So, there were lots of twists and turns, but there were some lessons that were learned. And if I could go back and do it all over again, there's not a lot that I would change about what I did. It would be more about my perspective about how I went through that time of my life. So let's start off with number one. If I could go back in time right now, I would tell myself to be more diversified in my investments. When I was 30, my biggest investment was our home. We had bought a new home. I was burning the candle at both ends. I had my import marketing company that was self-financed. And in order to self-finance those larger orders, I took on a job at an automotive factory. So I was basically burning the candle at both ends. I was working, midnight shift, coming in and driving to Toronto, an hour's commute into the city to have sales meetings and come back home. I was burning the candle, man, on both ends, and I was getting very little sleep. I was eating horribly. So what I would go back and say to myself is this: it's okay to try to get ahead. It's very admirable to be ambitious, to try to move forward. But I've learned now from my friends who have been uber successful, and even myself from my limited successes, what I would say is, don't be afraid to work with other people, to diversify yourself. My house was my biggest asset and continues to be my biggest asset to this day. My business, which eventually failed, was my second biggest asset. And that's the business, the holding company that I was going to hold my other real estate and investment properties in. But when that business failed, then I ran into problems, and my investment portfolio, the plan was broken, because the plan was to have excessive income from the business to reinvest back into stocks, real estate, and other business ventures to create even more passive income. So what I would go back to my 30-year-old self and say is this: A, don't be so proud and independent that you don't listen to or ask for help from other people. Consider other people's perspectives, especially those who are successful in business. Look at what they're doing, ask questions that demand better answers, and try to find a way to work together, to learn together, rather than saying, I can do it myself. Because when you use words like, that's okay, I get it, or I don't need your help, I'm fine. I had this really, really stupid mindset that I would say to people, I was so arrogant. I would say to people, if I won $1 million in the lottery tomorrow, I'd give it back because I want to make the money on my own. I want to feel like I earned it. You know what? That was a stupid 30-year-old talking who was so filled with pride. What I would go back and say is take it down a notch. Take the chip off your shoulder. Accept help where it comes. You're not in this alone. It takes multiple people. Most successful people I know have a team of people around them, and all ships rise with the tide. So everybody is being successful together, but very few people. Actually, I can't even think of one person that I know of, from the most successful person who is a billionaire to Your average millionaires who were factory workers who are now millionaires, everybody worked with somebody to get to where they are. Nobody did it alone. So that's lesson number one. Don't do it alone, and make sure that your investments are diversified. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. Number two, being optimistic is only going to take you so far. I was extremely optimistic and still to this day continue to be extremely optimistic. But the days add up, and you can only be optimistic for so long. At some point, you have to have a return on your investment. At some point, you have to make sure that you're moving forward. I went through my 30s and say halfway into my 40s without understanding the principle of resilience, which is you're either moving forward in life, you're stuck, or you're falling behind. I never looked at my life from that perspective. I never measured the metrics on my physical well-being, my personal relationships, my financial well-being, my professional well-being. I never looked at it from that perspective until I was well into my 40s. So I had to go learn a lot of lessons the hard way. And if I could go back and tell my 30-year-old self one thing, it would be, don't dig your heels in on everything. You don't have to die on every hill. Make sure that you sit back, take in perspective, listen to the people around you, and ask yourself, in my friendship groups, in my personal relationships, am I moving forward with these people, or are these people stuck in their beliefs, and are you falling behind from where you want to be? Sometimes you've got to shake up your friend group to move forward in life. With your personal relationship with your spouse, one of the lucky things that I've been able to do with my wife is, as I went through my Ironman journey, I inspired her to go on her own fitness and wellness journey. And now we're two very, very fit and healthy 58-year-olds who certainly don't act like other 58-year-olds that I know. And that's a good thing. We started investing in our well-being in our early 40s to mid 40s. I would go back and tell my 30-year-old self, hey man, it's never too late to start, but the days are going to add up. We're all following a recipe here. It's either a recipe for good things to happen or a recipe for bad things to happen. Sit up, pay attention, and start investing in the recipe for the person you aspire to be. So the days are going to add up. Let's get them adding up in your favor. That's number two. Number three, sometimes you can't make it on your own. And I know I talked about this in point number one, that you can't be independent thinking, but I'm going to come back and say it a third time. Number one is all about diversifying yourself. Number two is taking advantage of compound interest for yourself, for your finances, for your business, for whatever you're investing in. Number three is you can't make it on your own. Don't even try. Surround yourself with smarter people than what you are. Surround yourself with people who have already been down the road, and you can bring value to their world, and in turn they can bring value to yours by steering you the right way. If I could go back and talk to myself again, I don't know that I would make different decisions with respect to, I've always been an entrepreneur, I've always wanted to have success in my life, but there are things that limited my thinking. That idea, that notion that I had to do it on my own was ridiculous. I've always been inspired by the U2 song, Sometimes You Can't Make It on Your Own. It's a song that Bono wrote about his father. And his father was very, very much an independent person. And as he developed cancer in his life and required the assistance of other people, that relationship reminded me very much of my own relationship with my own father, who died of dementia, complications to dementia. And, he was a very independent, athletic individual up until he turned about 55 years old. He retired at 55. He started showing symptoms by the time he was 60. He was starting to have night terrors. He was hallucinating in his sleep. My mom would say that was the first sort of outward signs that there was a problem. Further tests revealed lesions on his brain. on his hippocampus, which ended up being Lewy body dementia. And in that process of him going through that disease, eventually going from living with my mom to assisted living to into a nursing home and waiting to die. I know there's a future video in here somewhere about this story. I don't know how to position it just yet, but the greatest gift my father gave to me in that experience of dying over the course of 10 years slowly was getting me to pay attention. His gift to me was to sit up, pay attention to what you're putting in your body, how you're moving, how you're thinking, how you're interacting with other people, because the days add up. And by the time it's too late to make any changes, it is too late. So I would go back and tell my 30-year-old self, you know what, you can't beat genetics, but you can certainly do things in your life to steer those genetics in a way that maybe they won't catch up with you. And, you know, for the first 40 years of my life, I did not pay attention to what I put into my body or how I exercised or how I interacted with other people. I had no idea how that all connected together. Now, as a 58-year-old, I will tell you, I understand that true happiness comes from not the money in the bank, but the relationships that I have with the people I love, who I call my friends and my family. My well-being, my physical well-being, comes from the investment I make every day in my cardiovascular fitness. My mental health every day is a payoff from the investment from the last 18 years of investing in my physical well-being, which is like miracle grow for my brain, building up more brain cells in my hippocampus so that if I do have dementia like my father and his mother did, if it is something that's hereditary in our family, hopefully I'm leading by example so that my kids won't suffer this fate, that I won't suffer this fate, and that we were all learning together. That's the gift my father gave me, was to frickin' pay attention. Sit up and pay attention and ask better questions that demand better answers and be accountable to yourself. That's the driving why behind why I do what I do. So I know that was a bit of a rant, and I apologize if it came across that way, but there are certain things that I would go back. You know, when I was thinking about doing this video, I thought, yeah, the first thing I would do is tell myself what the winning lottery numbers were. Of course, that's something we would all do, I would think, but that being not realistic, something that is practical that you can apply, yeah, be diversified in your investments. You know, optimism is only going to take you so far. The days are going to catch up with you. So, you know, compound interest, whether it be on finances or your personal well-being or what you put in your body every day, your friendships you invest in, how you develop your career, the days add up quickly. It goes by in a flash. And then, you know, the last one, you can't do it all on your own. You can't. So go find people who are going to help you get to where you need to be. Find those new supportive groups and let those people be your guide to help to get to where you want to be in life. So I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. This is a channel for guys. You know, I've had a very, very long career so far. I'm getting started again in YouTube. This is my second career, or my next career. And we're all going to learn together here. So if this inspired you at all, give me a thumbs up, drop a comment, subscribe. Let's get there together, okay? Have a great day.